Hello everyone and welcome to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Today we're going to look at the life of a very famous British woman. Her name was Gertrude Bell. Gertrude Bell came from a rather rich and influential family here in the UK. She was born in the 19th century in 1868, and she died fairly young in 1926. She attended Oxford University, where she studied modern history, but unfortunately, because she was a woman, and women in those days didn't usually have an education, they wouldn't actually give her the award of the first-class honours degree that she had earned. Anyway, her studies of modern history meant that she had fluent Arabic, and she spent much of her time travelling through the Middle East with Lawrence of Arabia. You can find many pictures online of Gertrude Bell sipping tea with Lawrence of Arabia and also on horseback all throughout the region. Her uncle was a very famous ambassador to Iran at the time, so she had no problem getting there, and besides, her family seemed to be very successful and a little bit rich, which meant that she could travel, unlike other women in the UK at the time. By the time the First World War came, the knowledge that Gertrude Bell had, particularly around archaeology, was very, very useful. She had befriended many of the tribes in Arabia. She had studied a lot with them, and because she was a woman, she was allowed into their private quarters to sit with other women and the wives of the leaders. So she had a kind of access which men didn't. She managed to get into their homes. Gertrude Bell is one of the few people from Britain who was very well respected by Arabs and Persians at the time. When the British Army recruited her, she became known as the Oriental Secretary. She was able to tell them how to move the troops through Arabia without interfering with any local problems or customs. She was very famous for her mapping. She could map out where the soldiers would be quite safe, and also the tribes which could bring some problems. She knew all about the area and all about the local leaders, and she used that knowledge. This is not the only reason why she was very famous. Some of her other achievements were about her writings. Her letters, which are stored in one of our universities here. But more importantly, she was very famous for beginning and founding the Baghdad Museum, where she placed all of the things which she had collected. This was the first museum in the region, and she was very, very happy about that. I'm not sure about now, but there used to be a bust of her. That means a statue of her head sitting outside of that museum. Unfortunately, during one of the Gulf War conflicts in the years 2000 or 2001, they accidentally bombed her grave. I don't think it was on purpose. I think it was just one of these things that happened. And it was very sad because during the reign of some of the dictators at that time, her memory had been forgotten. I'm very fortunate because I remember once I met a man from Iraq and we started talking about history. And he told me that his father remembered Gertrude Bell, or Miss Bell, as he called her. That made her very real for me and kind of brought her forward from history into reality. Gertrude Bell founded the Baghdad Museum, but unfortunately it was used by Saddam Hussein's family to keep their collection of cars. And I've no idea what the museum is like now. Another one of her great achievements was she put the royal family of Jordan on the throne. She installed the Hashemite dynasty in the country. She said, though, that no woman should ever have to do this. She found it really exhausting. She died very young. Unfortunately, it's not known exactly how or why she died. Some people think it was suicide because she had taken a lot of tablets, but other people think it was just a mistake because she had asked her maid to wake her. She died here in England, but she was buried in Iraq. Her body was taken back and they buried her in a Christian cemetery there in Baghdad. It is said that King Faisal watched the ceremony from his balcony and that the streets were lined with dignitaries, officials, and people that simply loved her. After she died in 1926, the government here decided to posthumously award her the Order of the British Empire, the OBE. These awards are for, well, the OBE is for anyone, but the posthumously, and I'm not sure if I've said that correctly, I'll need to check. These awards are given after someone dies. She achieved so much. Her goal was to preserve Iraqi and Arab culture. In that museum, which included the important relics of Mesopotamian civilizations, she herself supervised excavations and examined finds and artifacts. She brought in extensive collections such as from the Babylonian Empire, and the museum was opened in June 1926, just before she died. When she returned to Britain in 1925, she had faced family problems and ill health. Her brother had already died. Her apparent overdose of sleeping pills is very controversial. Some people say there's no way she would have killed herself, but other people say that she just had enough. I guess that's one of the things that we'll never know. All of her letters are preserved here, and she's a celebrated British figure. She's buried at the British Cemetery in Baghdad's Bab al-Sharji district. And as I mentioned a moment ago, her funeral was indeed a major event. Well, I hope that's introduced you to Gertrude Bell. If you want to know more about her, it's very easy because there's loads of information about her now on the internet. There wasn't when I first heard of her, but I'm very happy that her memory is being preserved and the home where she lived here now is being turned into a museum. Well, we hope it will be turned into a museum. There's currently a petition for that to happen. There we are. I hope you've enjoyed this. Let's talk again soon. Bye-bye.